Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. With the on-road indoor carpet season coming to a close, with our last race of the club coming up in 2 weeks time in Smith Falls, I figured I'd provide a quick update on my fleet of touring cars that I've been racing all season. I've got a 2022 X4 that I run in 21.5 touring car. I've got a 24 X12 that I run in GT12, and then I also have another 2022 XRay X4 that I run in USGT Trim. So what I'm going to do today is just go over each car, talk about some things that I've learned about each one, and I've also got a few small changes and repairs that I need to make ahead of next week's, the race in 2 weeks' time, because we're considering it a trophy race. So there's going to be prizes, and also more importantly, there's going to be tech. So the cars are going to be weighed, they're going to be measured for ride height, they're going to be measured for battery voltage and ESC blinky mode and all that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure everything is squared away before that event comes up. I initially don't have any concerns, as all of these cars have been teched before at other venues and races, so there shouldn't be any surprises. So stay tuned and let's start by going through each car. Okay, first is my 2022 XRay X4 set up for 21.5 touring car. I bought this car used off of a good friend kind of mid-season this year, and I've really enjoyed driving this car. The way that he set this up with, some aftermarket parts, some additional Kevlar and carbon fiber here and there, and also all of the titanium hardware, this thing is like a scalpel. It drives like it's on rails. It's super darty. The throttle response is amazing with this Team Zombie 21.5. I haven't played with any of the timing yet, but overall, this thing it goes where you point it and you pull the trigger and it darts in that direction. So I really like it. I'm running older Hootie tires. These are hard to come by, if not impossible right now. I do need to get new ones, probably not for the next Sunday event, but in the future. So I will be asking some of my fellow touring car racers on what they would recommend for the carpet that we race on. It's gray carpet, so not the greatest grip, but I'd be curious to see what they have to say about that. Recent repair I've had to make is I noticed that one of the drive shafts on the front was actually bent. You can see it here. So I don't know how long I've been running that. Maybe I haven't been paying too close attention to inspecting the car before racing, but this thing was bent and vibrating pretty bad. I didn't have time to change it between heats on Sunday, so I just ran with it. But yesterday I was able to swap out. I managed to discover that I had plenty spares of these, so it wasn't too difficult to change out. But yeah, pretty bent, so not good. The other thing that I had noticed while I was changing that out was the front bulkhead screws. Particularly, I think it was on this side, they were both loose, and this upper transmission bulkhead was super loose. I'm sure that just kind of lessened off as the season went on, as I kind of clipped walls here and there. But that just kind of reminds me that, before each race, I really need to have a close look at all the bolts to make sure and screws that everything is nice and tight, because that bulkhead was loose, and in fact, the screw that was holding this front side in was actually stripped out. You couldn't even tighten it, and you could just pull out the screw without actually using a wrench. So I swapped out the screw, and it went in and threaded in nicely. So gladly it wasn't the bulkhead that was stripped, it was the screw itself. So change that out. But again, overall, I'm loving this car. I can't wait to continue to drive it and get better at driving it. It's been lots of fun. Of a note, people have mentioned, they've seen in the background, you can see here that this wheel is in fact cracked. Yeah, that is correct. It doesn't really cause any adverse handling that I can tell, but obviously it's not ideal, hence why I want to replace those tires. So yeah, this is the 21.5, loving it, and can't wait to continue driving it and learning it. Okay, up next is my 2024 XRay X12, currently set up to run in GT12. This car has been super consistent all year long. I really haven't had to make any changes with it. I purchased this car off of the same friend who owned the 21.5 touring car. So again, fresh out of the box, the way he builds cars is quite incredible, and they always run really well out of the box. The only thing I've really had to kind of maintain is the front end. So during the CTSR race in Christmas, these retaining bolts for the front bulkhead came loose, and I lost a bunch of the spacers that control ride height. So I've had to go back and order more spacers so that I can properly set the 3mm ride height front to back, and make sure that those those shims and the like are properly tightened down. So that's really the only kind of maintenance that I've had to do on this car. The other thing that I've done is I've switched to the Gravity treaded GT12 tires, as opposed to what is traditionally run, the SJT slicks, the rubber slicks. So the reason I switched there was at Phoenix, which was in February, this was the handout tire for that series. And I've elected just to kind of keep with those tires. I'm not exactly sure how much slower or faster they are, but I know that there's quality control issues with these SJT tires. These SJTs are also a lot smaller. So as far as like overall circumference, you can kind of see the difference here. So what's critical is if I'm switching back and forth between these two sets of tires, then I have to go back and remove or add shims to mess with ride height. I would rather just stick with one tire and maintain that setup throughout the year. Now, the exception here is obviously is if I go back to CTSR and this continues to be the handout tire, well, then I'll have to make those changes with the ride height to account for that. But so far, I'm happy with these GT or these treaded tires. They're going to be allowed in the rules as this season continues and as well as next year. So I'm going to stick with those. The other thing to note is the body, the McLaren 720S body that was included in the car, obviously was trimmed to account for these much smaller SJT tires. So I found after a while, upon closer inspection, that running that body, having not made any trims or adjustments, you can actually see it here. I was having a little bit of body rub here, and it's actually cut down the tire just a little bit on this side. So that's something that I need to be cognizant of. Same with the rear tire. So you can see, yeah, here it is here. You can see on this one, there's a small groove where the fender was rubbing against the tire. So something to think about for sure. If you do switch back and forth between the SJTs and these Gravity treaded tires, you need to make sure that the body is trimmed accordingly. But again, overall, GT12 class is super fun. It's kind of like a gentlemanly class, I guess, you know, being up on the racer stand or the driver's stand. It's a really kind of cool vibe. We talk to each other. We talk about slower traffic, faster traffic, and then we thank each other for a good race at the end of every round. So I really like this class. The only other thing I'll mention is the CRC ball diff. So, you know, I need to keep an eye on this diff because it does loosen off over time. And then at one point I improperly adjusted it because I wasn't using the proper technique to make sure that things weren't slipping. So I actually had it really over tightened for a couple of heats last Sunday. And it was also almost driving like it had a solid spool until I caught it. I was like, why is this driving like this? And then I readjusted the diff using the proper technique of making sure things weren't slipping, and then everything went back to normal. So for those of you running a ball diff, just make sure you stay on top of how tight it is and make sure that you're adjusting it properly. So yeah, so far, loving this car. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And finally, here is my 2022 XRay X4 in USGT trim. I bought this used last spring, and I've been running this car through the entire season. I'll get to why that's kind of important as far as who I bought it from later in the discussion. But just quickly first, overall, USGT, a really fun class. There's some mixed opinions as to the longevity of this class, as the LMH 25.5 and 21.5 classes are becoming more popular. And there's talk that kind of USGT is, you know, becoming a little bit obsolete to be replaced by LMH classes. But so far, this class in our club is thriving. It's actually grown quite a bit as the season has gone on. So hopefully it won't go anywhere anytime soon. Just a few things of note. If you recall from a previous video, I have since switched to the belted Gravity radials or USGT tires. The old ones with the foam inserts balloon really easily. And if you watch my previous video, those tires were pretty bad shape. They were, you know, all puffed out and really soft, and I think it was contributing to some adverse handling. So I finally replaced those and put the belted ones on. The other thing that's been happening is the servo saver that I was previously running. I don't remember the brand, but I got it off Amazon. Last week, it just wouldn't hold center anymore. It was totally worn out. And I, was just getting really frustrated with the car not returning to center. So for last weekend, I had to resort to a solid horn, which is not ideal, right? With this nice Bruno servo, I would hate to hit the wall and strip out a gear or, you know, break some steering components. So I kind of had to tiptoe through the whole weekend with that horn until I could get a replacement servo saver. So I managed to find an XRay one from a local parts supplier. So I'm going to put that on today. I'll put that on later, reset all my endpoints and everything. But overall, I really like this car. It is not as darty and, you know, scalpel-like as the 21.5 touring car. And I can't, you know, figure out whether it's because of the person I bought this from may have built it differently as far as maybe the weights of the shock oil. Maybe it's, you know, like where all the different screws are as far as adjusting chassis stiffness. Maybe the diff fluid is different than what's in the 21.5 touring car. This thing drives great, but it's just not like the scalpel that the 21.5 touring car is. And maybe that's the tires too. Maybe the tires make that much of a difference. And that's just the nature of USGT. But again, overall, love this car. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to switch out that servo saver or that servo horn for a servo saver and get it back to normal ahead of the trophy race next week. A few final notes before this video comes to an end. Just a quick update on the ELRS system. I've found this system to be quite an improvement over the standard MT12 4-in-1 protocol. I mean, sure, placebo maybe, but overall, with this module installed, I've found just to be much more confident in my driving. And whether that's a real thing with the reduced latency and the speed of the ELRS system, who knows? But this radio isn't going anywhere. I really like it. I like the feel of it. I like the hall sensor feel to all of the controls, and I'm really getting used to all of the programming. There has been some stories online about runaways and loss of signal connection. There are workarounds for that, specifically with the Channel 5 arming technique, which I've done with all of my receivers, and I have not had a single problem with probably 4 weekends of racing with this system. I've not had any loss of signals or telemetry, no runaways or anything. So I think if you just set everything up properly to include the Channel 5 failsafe and arming, then that's not an issue at all. And then just quickly, I will make an announcement with this Atomic. So this is my MRX with the simple front conversion and running the Hobby Wing 3500 kilovolt motor. Some exciting news that one of the local hobby shops in Ottawa is now an official supplier of Atomic. So that's great as far as getting parts. I don't have to order from other places anymore, especially with all the tariffs and everything happening. And then they're also starting a class with their weekly Mini-Z races for Atomics. So that's super exciting because I haven't been able to race this on an RCP track in an official class. So that's really exciting. I'm happy that Hobby Hideaway is doing that, and I'm looking forward to racing the Atomic in an official class. So that's it. That's kind of my close to season end update. One more race in 2 weeks. It's a trophy race. Looking forward to it with tech and prizes, and I'll be sure to report back and let you guys know how things went. If you have any comments about any of my cars or questions, please leave a comment in the comment section. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe and like my channel. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.